Okay, we're back with another stumble through tutorial on using Roblox and Blender GIS to create sustainability education centers. And so I'm going to boot up Blender once again, and I'm using 2.8, and 2.8 does have quirks that if you're familiar with 2.7 or before, you're going to have to get used to, like I am, readjust. And I'm going to open up Roblox Studio so that we have that going. And the machine is kind of overburdened. There we go, 2.8's up. And I'm going to open up my previous file. And so what I'm doing here is I'm looking at creating tree areas for my landscape. Let's see if this thing will... I'm rendering, so it's taking time. Okay, so there's the landscape, and all of these circles, some of them are not properly placed, are covering where there's going to be trees on the landscape. And sometimes there are some problems in the Z dimension. Whoa, there you go. That may be too high, so you'll want to just select individual trees that that may have gotten moved out. They're not quite on the landscape. As you can see, when I select all, there's a bunch of them that are too low. And I wish there was a batch way to move them up, because if there was, it would save us a lot of trouble. The world, the object, there's the location in Z. And maybe if I were to make them all 0, well, there we go. I guess they did all become 0. One hopes. So now you can see there, those are the locations of the trees that I'm going to place, but I'm going to do the tree placing in Roblox, not in Blender. The other thing I want to do is that lake, I'm going to want to know where that is. So I'm going to take one of these and hit Shift D and move it over. And I should have probably, well, it sinks down for some reason. There it is below the line. I like to keep 2 windows open, but that Z got definitely messed up. So there it is. And then, can I turn on, by the way, the screencast keys? Screencast keys, let's turn it on. It's off there. Now you can see what I'm doing over there. So turn off. That's a plug-in, by the way, screencast keys. So now that I have that, I can enlarge that to a sort of lake size and move it over. And then I will go in and start stretching the points. And I think what's happening here is the landscape, because I have the map as a topographical map, it's creating some problems. But at least this gives us a basic contour and shape for the lake that doesn't have to be perfect. And hopefully the number of polygons on this thing will be low enough that it will import properly into Roblox. Now, one thing we can certainly do is select all and move it up a little bit in G, and maybe that should be, let's see, if we put it at 2. No, that didn't do it. If we put it at, whoops, there we go. Okay, 20 meters. Okay, wow. Alrighty. But at least we're getting the shape a little bit better there. That's fine. just to get some of the contours of that for the lake. All right, get tab out of that. Now, you can export this separately by going to Wavefront Object and make sure it's the selection only. And let's call this Lake Rosebud Plain. And we'll export that. And then we will do all of the trees, which are, let's deselect here and use our selection box. That should get all of them, except we didn't want to do the map. And actually I should have done it without the map for the circle, so I'm going to re-export the lake. So always turn off the lake. So we're going to take that and export that. Turn off the map underneath. So do this and call it tree plane. I already did it yesterday, so I was supposed to be in trial planes, so there's a mistake there anyway. So let me put that in there, and then there is a tree planes object, and I'm going to re-export over that. Now I'm going to select just this and do an export and to the lake again. These are all my planes. Lake Rosebud Plain. And now when we go into Roblox Studio, ignore, let's go to one I call base plate. Give it a time to load. Okay, and there it is. And there's the trees that I had, but I'm going to select those trees, that tree plane, which is down here as tree planes, and I'm going to reinsert the newer one that I just did because some of the trees were in a different plane. Now they're all zeroed out. So let's put that in, don't resize, move it to the location. And okay, now we have our trees plane in there, and now I want to get that lake in there. So I will take, say, the raised beds here, and I will duplicate them, and then I will call this the lake plane, and go to my folder down here and open up the lake plane and bring it in. Don't resize it, move it, and did it work? I don't know.
I don't like the yogurt. I like the cereal.
And no, it didn't work. It did not work. Okay, so this is the problem with it. Must be some kind of memory problem, that this is too big. So the way to do it, so it's a pain when these things don't come in, and maybe the way to do this is to go into the edit mode and try to highlight a section of it and hit F to make a face, and let's see if we can't break it up into faces like this and work with those slices like we did with the other. If anybody else has a suggestion for how to do this better, I'm all ears. So I'm going to take these points here, and I'm going to then go into the hit escape here, into select, and are we doing a selection or are we doing a split, a bisect? We are separating by selection, and then when we hit tab, this should be a different, no, oh yeah, it did that. So interesting. We'd have to select this object and fill it in by going to Tab and selecting it all and then hitting F, and then that section is filled in. And I guess that we can do that, back out of Tab, for this over and over again. Let me turn on the map here. The first thing to check is, will that section come in, and then we can work about getting other sections in. So that section now, if I turn everything else off, and I think that you can just hit H for hide. No, that hit it, actually. So that's not what I want to hide. Oops, that's everything. Is there a way, is it hitting Control H? No. Hide collection. Is it Alt H? No. Hide collection. I want to hide everything but that. One moment. Okay, so when you want to just select one thing, then hit Shift H, and then only that is selected. Alt H brings everything back. Shift H is when you select a single thing, and if you select a few things, you can hide specific things. Like by hitting H, I can hide this background plane, and that's just hitting H for each of those objects. But if you want to just look at one thing to export, use Shift H. And now if I take that slice and I export that as Lake Slice, and let's make that Lake Slice 1. And again, you want to make sure that the number of triangles is below 10,000, but it's only 11 for that. So I don't understand why Roblox wouldn't let it in, but let's see. So I'm going to now, once again, take an object like, let's take Tool Shed, and I'm going to duplicate it. And I'm going to make this one Lake Slice 1. And then go to my folder and find Lake Slice 1, and there it is. Hit open, don't resize, send it to its location. Ah, there's Lake Slice 1, so it did come in. So that seems to be the way to do these things. And now I guess I need to go get Lake Slice 2 and go back here, and once again I can just now hide with Shift H. Just do that, go into the editing mode, and let's see where Lake Slice 2 would come in. So what did we have for Lake Slice 1? Actually, let me see if that was the one, Circle 57, and Circle 56 is on it. So it really is from here to and maybe I better call this something because you will get lost. I know I do. This one is Lake Slice 1. Keeping good naming conventions will definitely help. It even lets me rename it. There we go. Lake Slice 1. And now we have this cylinder, which is the whole lake. Lake hole. And by finding it now here, lake, there's lake. So if this was the slice, then it doesn't seem to have sliced it on this, or maybe I needed to save it and I hadn't saved it. But let's then get this next slice out here. Do that, 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 and that. And then we will go to the select, no, the mesh, and do separate by selection. And now we have another slice here, another lake hole, which now will be called Lake Slice 2. And Lake Slice 2 is there. It needs to be, it needs to have a face in it. So we hit, I put it into edit mode and then select it and then hit F. And that gives it a face. And not only will we save now, but then we're going to export this and make that Lake Slice 2. A painstaking process, but it doesn't seem like Roblox will let us bring in anything else. So here I'm going to duplicate this and make it Lake Slice 2. And this really illustrates how the geographic information comes along into Roblox, which is what we need for making our own territories into a GIS map. I'm using the GIS, so then it lays on just fine. So we're getting a little more of the lake on there, positionally. And because that's off my map anyway, I will stop there, although I will take a section of this map, the map border left, and I'm going to duplicate it with Control D and take this one, and I'm going to move it over with the move tool, and because I don't want anybody to fall off the map when they're going through here, and I'm going to do it again. And yeah. So now we get the other slices of the lake to come in. Maybe we can do this whole piece here by grabbing just this, and then we can use our C key to select the other points, and then we can hit escape, and then we can hit F. Sorry, separate. So once again we would go to mesh and separate, and by selection, and then that creates a separate piece somewhere. There it is.
We're not leaving at 4 at 6. We're leaving before.
Okay, so now I've brought in all the different lake slices and I put them into a group, and I did that by hitting group. And I made a model. Oops, don't want that. Delete. Oh no, shouldn't have done that. How do I get rid of this? Ungroup. There we go. So lake is the group that has these lake slices in it, so they can be moved about. But now I want to get a bit of terrain in here, and to do that I'm going to create a region, and so I go to region and I create this region, but I want to be in the top looking down. I'm not altogether sure how one creates, there's a region. Alright, so I create a region on top of this like that, and this region is going to have to contain the lake. For some reason, the region's really weird. It's going up and down. It's not where I want it to be, is it? If I move the region, I can get it down there, but I do want it to grow then. I'm going to resize the region, and it won't let me make a very big region. Terrain tools, you are very awful. Seems I can create a region only so big. But if I place that region on my plane like so and move it, then I can cover this thing with the region, I imagine, by doing a, first I'll do a fill, and I'll fill this with grass for now. And then I want to copy, and I should have another region here. You can't really see it. And I want to copy. Oh, it doesn't do anything. Paste. Alright, let's do that. There we go. So I'm building up regions. Paste. Paste. The reason I'm going to all this trouble is because if I want to put in water, then I have to have it as a terrain. And that is the problem with trying to create water. So I'm pasting in bits of terrain and moving those terrains in. So I have bits of terrain now. And when I'm then selecting the lake, then I can move my lake down, and I can paint water onto that terrain. Ah, no, sorry. You don't want to do that. It's very thick. You want to paint it. So I'm going to paint that terrain with water. Did I pick water? That piece of terrain, got it. So what's wrong with this? Alright, this is bizarre, for sure. And it may have to do with that lake terrain. Because I probably didn't, let me actually get rid of some of these slices here. If we get to the map, then these slices here can be gotten rid of now. I actually don't need them. That one, that one, that one, that one, that one, that one. I don't need these. My lake, actually I don't need the other one too. All the map border I no longer need. So what I have to do now is find my lake and move it up. But I'm not going to be able to paint if it's, I don't think I can paint. Let me see. Terrain editor, paint. Let me make my size bigger and my strength bigger. I don't think it's going to paint through this, so that when I move my lake down. No, it doesn't show up. It would have to be underneath, and then I can paint water onto that part of the landscape. So this is going to be a little trickier, unless maybe, because I need to find the borders of this. If I lift this up, or is there a way to get underneath it? Ah, there was a better way to do this. Perhaps what I can do, if I turn everything into water here, I'll make a very huge brush and paint. Maybe I can do the opposite and paint the grass around the lake. Let's see if that's a better solution to this problem. So yeah, in this case what I would do is I would paint grass onto these edges, if it will let me. Probably there's an ignore water thing, so I have to turn off ignore water here. Yep. That's how to do it. Remember to turn off ignore water. And then we can get the lake water. Now this is still non-terrained, and I should also look at and see, yeah. So a couple of things that I'm going to have to do to improve this is I'm going to need to grow terrain, and if I go back again to regions, I can select, oh no, didn't want to do that. I don't want to do fill, I don't want to do copy paste, I don't want to do that, move, turn that off, okay, select, no, oh I see what it's doing, that is one of those planes, it's not going to let me select an old plane, is it? Oopsie. So terrain, I find the terrain editor to be really kludgy. When you go to regions, maybe resize, because now it's actually picking the lake, and I don't want that. I'm trying to get a piece of terrain, and it doesn't let you do much with the terrain. But I did have in the buffer, I had paste, but I don't even know how to get to that anymore. Select tools. So I guess what I'm going to have to do is, once again, see that's not working out, whoa, no, not that. Go to the top view and create a piece, a region. When you turn that on, you can create a region like this and then shrink it down, and then with that region make your tile, and then you can move it. Again, we made the large, oh, now it lets you do a larger piece, or not so large. See, it's kind of weird, like what is that? Because if I hit move and move this down into the landscape and then go to resize, now it lets me do the whole thing. Okay, that is highly bizarre. But I can then begin to replace parts of this with the landscape. Roblox is very weird that way. So I'm now creating a terrain, and I'll be able to get rid of all my slices. How nice. Now to move, now go down, but when I bring it down, No, it's still tiny. Very hard to understand how this operates. Very hard indeed. Is that the largest that we can make it? When we do resize, a little bit larger, but not much. That's it. And then move. Okay. And then we will fill it, and fill it with grass. And then we will copy and then paste and move this up, and then paste and move this up, and then paste and move this up, and then paste and move this up. And that should take care of that, but I can still paste and then move this over, and then paste and move this down. And it would appear that it's merging the empty spaces, so it's creating a terrain, which then should be filled with grass. Whether it really worked or not, we will find out when we delete these parts of the landscape. So if I go to map 2, and that's this piece here. Yep, take that off. I don't need it anymore. So I'm going to delete that. Map 3, this one here, don't need it anymore. Get rid of that. Map 4, don't need it anymore because I've created terrain, but you can see that I have not got terrain under there. It's just blue sky when we get to map this one here. And ultimately we do want to create a terrain under this. So at this point we can start deleting our map pieces because they're unnecessary, because we have the locations. But we are going to have to create more terrain under here. And I keep my border. All right, so to do that, you've got to go back again to a region. There's our region there, and then paste it, and the fill should work, and then paste. There's another one, and then paste, and there's another one, but you don't see it in there until you hit fill, and that one didn't get filled. How interesting. So paste and fill, and then 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 paste and fill. Whoops, mistake there. Didn't mean to move that. Do that, undo. Okay. Up, C. And then it looks like Yeah, once you've done that, we can't paste because there's nothing left to paste. So you have to do the whole process again. You can't take a piece of landscape, apparently. If you hit add, I'm not sure that, see, that'll make this big mountain, and we don't want that. Add is terrible in that regard. It makes these massive mountains. Even if you change the shape and you change the size, even if you go to the top and try to move it over, add is a, it's just, it makes it really big, which you can see when you go down into it. It just makes this giant sort of grass thing. So add is not what you want. What you really do want is you want regions, and you need to create them by putting this in and stretching it out and hoping that you hit the right. See, that's like weird. It's like an up and down. And I definitely don't want that part of the up and down. We want that, and we don't want a big region either. We want to shrink it down and then move it. And you have to move it right into place. It would be really nice if there was a if terrain had a place that showed where it went, and it doesn't. So you have this problem that you've got to move the thing around and do your resizing by eye, which I find just atrocious. And if I resize, yeah, I can make it a little bigger, but it looks like that's about the size of the square that you get, unless somebody else has other ideas for how to get that to work. And then when we've got that, we can fill it with grass and then copy it and paste it and then move the next one over. Oh, because I filled it with grass this time, it has the grass in it. That's a lot more convenient. Alright, so we'll put that piece there. I need to get rid of this, but if I do that, then I won't have my grass. I'll have to create another one, and that's a pain. So I will paste and put in the next one, paste and put in the next one, paste and put in the next one, paste and put in the last one, paste, paste, paste. All right, good. That's all I need to do for that. I don't want to do regions more. I should be able to get rid of these stripes, whatever they are. Sometimes it just doesn't let you select. Maybe 6. Let's see if we delete that, what happens. Yeah, I'm going to have to close that gap up. And what about that? Delete that. Okay. So there's just a place where it will fall in the blue sky. And what about this one here, the border bottom? Don't need it anymore. Although we'll have to fill those in. And what about this one here? Border right, no longer needed. Border top. And it won't let me select it for whatever reason. Map. Look for it under map. There's the map border top. And delete that. So I just have to fill this in, and you can now, I think this would be, for the terrain, if we add, it's going to be bumpy. See, that's the whole problem with add. So bumpy. So once again, you don't want that. You're going to have to go to regions and create a region and make sure that it is very small dimensional, which is a pain when you're looking at it because it doesn't seem to have any orthographic view. User interface, that didn't do anything. Top regions, and take that piece, make it huge, move it down till it disappears. Resize it. And move it. Till it's right there. It's going to make the terrain bumpy probably. And yeah, we'll just have to fill it in like that. And do a fill with grass. Say OK. Copy it, paste it, move it over. Bring it up. So it is definitely a bit bumpy there. Paste it in place, cover up. Paste it, cover up. Paste it, cover up. Yeah. All right. That should do it for this for now. And then we go to our lake. And our lake is, hit F, go to our lake. Our lake, if we move it, is now has to be painted over. And the thing is, the terrain won't really, it doesn't let us paint water underneath this. If I do that, it just doesn't see it. So, oh, it did see it. Look at that. All right, so it does paint through these things. Something good there. I wish I could make this transparent. Let's see if I can. Color, material. If it is glass, yeah, great. The color of the glass, black, no. Is there no transparency here? Nothing. Nothing material. It won't do water, so you can forget that. It'll do ice, but so what? So we can't really look through it when we place it, but we now seems to be that when you do paint and you use water, you can paint. Let me get a bigger brush. Paint the lake as it is and get those outlines there, because we know it's just a lake. So if I can get the outlines successfully painted, then I can take my lake and, yeah, I mean, I can actually begin to get rid of it because it's no longer relevant, because now when I paint, I know I can fill in the lake. I don't know what those other colors are there or why they're there, but how nice that I now have the lake in the right place. And is that sky? Is that what that is? A hole to fall through the universe? It might be. It might be that we have to add something or do a region fill there. Could be. So once again, we go to there. Oh, that didn't work. Go to regions. There it is. Go to move regions. Bring it. Oh, wow. Look at that. What is that doing? And then fill this with water. Say okay. I don't know what that is doing. Like, why is that? Paste. Oh, no. No, no, no. Fill with water. You silly beast. What are you doing? See, we definitely don't want that. Bring this up. This is supposed to be filled with water. Fill with water. And that is the weirdest thing. Fill with water, you dumb region. It thinks that this is supposed to be grass, and it's not. Fill with water. It's not doing it. Oh wow. Well, let's get out of regions then. Oh, got a definite hole there. Oh gosh. All right. When that happens, then you've got to subtract and get rid of things like that. Like, what is that? That's the sky under there. I better turn on ignore water here, so I subtract this netherworld that's down there. So there's a big hole in the world there, and I can't really paint over it water. I'd have to generate, or I'd have to add water. But what a weird location. Then the water's going to be this tower, which is awful. So I'll try it again. Go to regions. And create a region. Move that region down. Whoa, down. Really looks funny. Resize it. Move it. There we go. Getting about to lake level. Move it over and fill that gap. That big hole we created. And fill with water. And hope that that worked. Yeah, kind of, but with a weird thing. So if I go smooth, no, it's smoothing with grass. Oh, that's awful. Why would it smooth with grass? Toe water, smooth. Some weird default, it does grass instead. Well, it's out there in the middle of the lake. No one's ever going to see it when you're on the ground. Let's look at what happens when we hit play. If anything, not responding. Okay, here we go. The houses are all weird. He's weird. Everything's weird. It's taking a long time to generate, but pretending to walk, and he reaches, whoa, the lake. And he can swim in the lake for sure, and then he falls through the world. Why? Because there's nothing under the lake. Oh, so it looks like if you have water, he respawned. If you have water, then something funky happens. You can go to water. You can swim in water. Oh, he seems to be swimming okay. He now is walking on water. And in the infinite domain, there's really funky water, which I can run on until I get to the edge of the universe. Looks like the run program does weird things. Oh, that is the original lake part that I put underneath, and when that's gone, he falls through the universe. Falls to the universe. Right. So it appears that I have a lake plane that he's running on. That was the lake plane that I created. And as long as the water is on top of the lake plane, he can swim. But should he venture off to where there is nothing underneath the water, is that when he falls through? As he swims and swims. Yeah, he will fall. Or will he fall? Yes, he will fall, because there's no lake plane. So what that is indicating to me is that you should have some plane underneath there somewhere. And in this case, where did our lake go? Way up in the air. Well, that couldn't have been the lake plane because it's way up in the air. So I really don't know what is making it. But I can keep it underneath. And see what that does. Because here, yeah, he falls through the universe. That is the weirdest thing. It's like he can't even go for a swim, but he can go for a swim. Ah, if he swims down underneath the bottom of the water, he falls. But how far down is that? I mean, if I do this... Ah, because that wasn't anchored, maybe. Let's see. Now you can see it rising up there. And then it'll encounter some collision property there where he's running on the lake between the water. So the water has a certain depth, and then he falls through. Okay. Not good. Well, it's fascinating. We'll have to learn more about Roblox in that regard. As for the other objects, if we look at the house, it's good to use the right names. House and classroom there. That was kind of funky. It was not on the ground. It's kind of strange, and all of the planes that we have for the tree, where we're going to put the trees, tree planes, they need to be moved down. Oops, I didn't want to do that. So they're just at the ground. Once again, I want to see about this house. How is it appearing? And everything needs to be anchored, by the way. If you don't anchor objects that are going to stay, they're going to fall all over the place. That may include the tree planes as well. So now when we play, yeah, the house is better. Yeah. Although you can see he's standing on something that is not the ground plane, and these are all kind of like up. So putting your planes properly is crucial. He never seems to fall down. That is above it, and that probably has to do with any one of these planes that we have and that we have not anchored. But the tree plane is really only there, actually serving as a proxy, so that we can place trees, and then we're going to get rid of that. And that's the whole point of this, is that we're trying to find the stuff that is here in Rosebud. Shift H once again. No, I didn't. Alt H. There you go. So we're using these just to indicate the location of the different objects and then place the trees in there. So now when I go to tree, there's a nice tree. Place that and then grow it. I'm going to hit the shift key and oops, tree. There we go. And then move it. And then I'm going to duplicate it and move it over. And we'll have to size them accordingly, but keep duplicating and scaling. Hold the shift key to get uniform scaling. And just keep moving. Oops. Moving your trees over that are of about the same size class. How I wish there was a way to just freely move like in Blender, and there probably is. I just certainly don't know what it is. If it is model, moving here is off, so transform. Don't know if I'm going to use that, just the move key. But keep placing your trees and they don't all have to be the same kind of tree. We can use this tree here. Whoa. That tree there. The other trees should still be there. Yep, they are. And grow this one up a bit. And we can duplicate that. Duplicate that. So I've put my trees in all of the spots. Now there's a forest up here, and there is a tree generator that this has. I'm not sure how to use it. That was a plugin that I got, so maybe I won't use that. There's a place tree, and you can give fork angles and stuff. Again, I haven't tried that yet with these presets. There's also this plugin for tree where you can make the tree size a certain size. Let's make it 80 and click to generate at that location. Boom. So we can start putting trees in to the forest with that. Change the leaf color around just a little bit to give some variety, because this area is under forest. And change the wood color. So there are these capabilities to give some variety to your landscape. All right, but so that's using the different plugins or using trees that you get from the models. So there's some options there. Now let's take a look at if we get rid of the tree plane, which is this one here. We don't need it, but I'm going to keep it around, so I'm just going to move it and move it down so far below the world that its mesh doesn't interfere. It's still there, as you can see. I mean, there it is, but we want it below the world, so it's down. The tree mesh is down. Where is it? Down here. See, so it's available to us if we need it to see where those trees, in case they got lost. for some reason. It's the same thing that we would do with the lake model. That lake model, if we looked at it, is under here. And isn't that weird? There's bits of terrain. Terrain is really weird. When there's terrain, you can go to subtract and erase random bits of terrain that got generated. It is, to me, the most bizarre thing. These random bits of terrain that get generated. Real kludgy thing. Anyway, you can see some of our trees are put way too low on the landscape. And look at how our water is really ugly. I thought that smooth would do it, but smooth, yeah, smooth does not work for water unless I'm doing something really wrong. I can't even hit ignore water for smooth. So it doesn't, smooth just doesn't work on there. So great for that. Alright. No more terrain editing. So the trees, about the trees. So some of them are too tall, some are too small. The weird thing is the ones that are generated, they kind of go in weird. But we'll have to bring these up because our terrain is sort of too high. So we'll have to do a lot of editing with our trees. Some of them came in okay. Some of them definitely did not. So a lot of tweaking to do. But there's a nice variety. And we'll do that tweaking as we go. That tree's way up in the air. It shouldn't be. See? Bring that down to the ground. That tree's up in the air. And with those trees that are up in the air, maybe the best thing to do is to delete them because they are creating all sorts of weird problems. These are the ones that the generator did. But let's see how it looks when we're in the game by saving and playing. Alright, well, his house is still floating for some reason. Although it doesn't seem like he's walking on the ground now. That's good. So that means it was the tree plane that was making him walk really funny. And there's our sand lot there. That one's a bit awkward. And there's what will be our biodigesters. And there's our fence, which needs to be adjusted. And there's our fence line, which we haven't finished. And the fence line is kind of crazy. And our greenhouse is going to go there, and our gardens are like really messed up. But at least now we're getting a better look at where things need to go. Let's go about replacing the biodigesters. So here I should be able to click on those and duplicate it. Control D. And when I put my, I need to get rid of this, these pushins, I'll call these pushin detailed, and open up a model which should be in exports to Roblox. Bishop House, Rosebud Landscape, Pushin Digesters, Rosebud 2. So, oh, that's not the right one. Okay. Rosebud Lake. So once again, now if we are back in this map and we want to replace these with the Pusheen digesters, I'm going to hit Shift H to hide everything but that, and I'm going to now go and import an STL file that I have in my exports to Roblox and Pusheen models. So I have the Pusheen biodigester there, and now I've imported that, and it comes in small, so the first thing I'll do is I'll scale it 5 times, because that is what the usual scaling factor is for Roblox, and it's about right if you look at it in terms of the placeholder that we had. And then what I'm going to do is I want these independent, so I'm just going to select that and Shift H so it's just that, and let me just make sure that it's looking proper, sitting on the line. Yes, it is. And if we of course come to our Shift H to reveal everything again, oh, I got rid of everything. Why? Alt H reveals everything. Okay, then we see when we look at the overview, we see the digester in place, and it looks about right in terms of size on this landscape. I can of course select certain things and hit H to hide them individually, just so I can get a better sense. Now, is this yeah, it does look, it looks just right, in fact. And really, these now placeholders can be deleted. I don't need them anymore, because I can replicate this with Shift D and move this over, and then replicate it again with Shift D. And assuming that these are not going to be moved, I could export them as one object and set my location right here. Might as well do that. And I'll have that capability. So I'm going to then do G and Z. Let me turn on for you screen keys. That always seems to go off. I have to click it again. Okay. What just happened? Okay, something just happened. Let me go Control Z. There it is. It's back. All right, and G and Z, and then move it down, because this one is buried. This one is in real life half buried to the neck, like that. And now by selecting these 3 and hitting Shift H, only they are shown. Alt H would show everything. I want to make sure they're on the line. They seem to be for the diagram. Not too bad. Once again, let me just select this, this, and this, and then hit Shift H to select just them. And let me then turn on here when I get export. I can turn on the map just so I can see how they fit there. It does appear that they are slightly, and not in Y, G, X, slightly. That's a more realistic location for them on the landscape. Yep. Good enough. And then Shift H, how many triangles? 360,000 triangles. Well, that ain't gonna work. They have to be definitely decimated. So maybe what I'll do is I'll take one of them, which has, okay, let me hide these. Let's see if I can decimate this. It's now 120,000 for this single one, and I'm going to have to use a modifier and use the decimate modifier and hope that it doesn't distort the thing terribly. So I'm bringing the triangles down. Ooh, if I'm at 9,000, it's really bad. There's 11,000. Let's see, with that ratio, how subdivided can we make it? 21,000, still okay. 13,000, we're still okay at 0.02. Now let's get incremental here. 0.03 brings us to 3,000 triangles, and it still looks okay. We can actually maybe go up. Maybe we can go 0.02 is, that's not too bad, actually. It's only got 2,000 triangles, but it's a little kludgy. Let's bring it up a little bit more. That's better, and that's 14,000 triangles. 0.05, 0.09 is 10,000. Let's try 0.09 itself. What does that bring us to? 10,828, so it's just a little too big still. So 0.08 and 0.085, let's see what that does. 10,226, 0.080 would give us 9,000. That's pretty good, still looks decent. So that's what we're going to apply to this, and we might as well then duplicate that. We don't need the full model here, so I'm going to delete that and delete that, take this and duplicate it and move it over in the X direction, and then duplicate it again and move it over in the X direction. Let's look at that from the top. So let's get rid of this. We don't need that anymore. That placeholder is gone. Now we have this, this, and this. Total of 47,000 triangles with everything in there. Now we hit Shift H to just see that, and we are down to 28,000. So it does look like we're going to be exporting them individually, and then we'll place them in Roblox. We'll do our placement there. So I'm just going to take one of these and let me save my file. Export as an object, and it'll be called, this has now got to be in a different folder, which is exports to Roblox, and we'll call this the Pusheen digester, and export that. And now when we go into Roblox, we can come in, and those that we created there can be imported by going to our folder, to the mesh ID, going to exports to Roblox, and Pusheen. Actually, I really want to put that Pusheen digester in the Pusheen models. Will it let me? Yes, it will. Okay. So I have it. So there it is. There's the object. And bring it in. It says its limit, it has 47,000. Okay, something went wrong here. So let's go back to Blender, because these were still on the screen. So you have to isolate so just that is exported. Now it's at 9,000. So now re-export just this selection only, and export it. And now go back in and say OK. Still says it's got 47,000. What went wrong? Oh, because it exported into a different place. Right. So let me do this export and overwrite the one that's in Pusheen models. There we go. That one is the one that we want. And now in Roblox, we once again go and grab that. There it is, in all its glory. Oh, I said no and I shouldn't have. It's alright, I can move it manually. It would have gone in by itself, but I can move that. I'm going to get rid of the cylinder, if I can find it. There, the Pusheens. I'm going to get rid of those. They're no longer necessary, so I'm going to delete it. I'm going to take this now and do Control D to duplicate, move this one over, and move it. Oh, no, not you. Anyway, you were too high, so yes, great you. Take this, bring it down. Yeah, come on in.
Hi.
Hi. So this should have gone in there. It needs to be reloaded. and this one, and then do a Control D and move the third one down. Buried. And now the Pusheen digesters are in. They're the wrong color. Let's see if I can change that color to what they really look like. Yep, I can. And this one here, however, this one is in fact a lighter color. And this one doesn't have to be red at all. This can fit into the landscape. Alright, so it's a bit off. If we go up to our top, we can see now that these need to be moved toward the fence line. But now we have our first actual objects that are in the game, and when we hit play and our character shows up in that landscape and he goes racing over, he can go over to the biodigesters only to find that one of them is still floating in midair. Oh no. So we'll have to lower that. But this is how we begin to get assets into the property. So this has to go down to the ground. Hit F to get close to it, turn around, and bring it up so that its base begins to appear. And this one needs to go down a little bit lower. Okay. There. So we're beginning to get parts in. Now from this point, of course, we have the location of the house and the classroom over there, and really we're using them just as a template. So I will do the same thing here. I'm going to use a stock house that's found here, and it isn't going to be the actual bishop's house, a gorgeous suburban house here, but I'm going to bring that in, or maybe just the suburban house. There's a gorgeous one and there's a nice one, so let's put in the suburban house and drop that in. It's a little small for what the bishops have, so maybe we won't take that. Let's delete that model. Let's try the gorgeous suburban house. How does that come in? Let it come in. It's way over there on the ocean now. Sitting in the water. Don't know why. Oh, did it sink? No, it's way over here now. Sometimes this is where you want to uncheck your move constraints, but I think it's getting kludgy in terms of memory. That gorgeous suburban home, which doesn't seem to want to move. It's way out there in the middle of nowhere, as you can see. So it's so big it's not moving well, so maybe we will delete it and try it again. Let's go back into here. That's where the home, oh shoot, something happened. The tree got moved. So I'm in, the problem is I'm on move and I shouldn't be. So I'll do that, go to select instead. And yeah, it's acting crazy. Something weird is happening. So this suburban home is a bit big, and we're putting it on top of where the actual house is, and it doesn't quite fit, of course. It is not, that's not the place the house would really go. But, I mean, this is where the house would go, but this is not the size of the actual house. But at least it gives a reasonable approximation until we get the house, the real house, modeled. And we can keep the other house part slightly visible so we know where that is in the terrain. But it's going to, again, create a collision box, which could be a problem. But let's keep it there for the moment, and at least then we have some sense of where it goes. And then the classroom, of course, was underneath here, and that's not showing up yet. So the classroom, because it's smaller. Oh, I think I'm moving the wrong house. Yeah, I am. You undo there. The classroom is actually here, and we're going to bring in a classroom from the modeler, and where is our model? So we do want to see the object browser, and oops, we don't see that there. We need to look at the toolbox again. And from our toolbox, let's pick Classroom and see what they have. There's a free classroom there. There's a portable classroom here. And office building there. This classroom here looks very simple, and we'll drop that right there. Now take this model to move and bring it down slightly underground, but that's where this model goes. And bring it down onto the actual ground. Again, it's not identical to the real thing until we've modeled it, though. It gives us an idea of location. And bring it down onto the ground. One day we'll figure out what the height of the actual terrain is so that we can more accurately model it. Does it look like it's leaning? Yeah, it's all askew. That's kind of weird. I guess the rotate tool could be used then to, oops, wrong rotation. The rotate tool. We can use, ooh, not good. The classroom has so many models in it that you can't rotate. You have to rotate literally the entire thing. There's no way to get in and just do a general rotate by numbers. So let's see. If that is looking better. And let's move it up a bit. All right. Although the door, technically, well, it's just where it is. Okay, and there's a big platform there, and then there's the house there. All right, a couple of other things we can begin to place around here. The greenhouse we can look at and see if they have a greenhouse here. Well, they do. It doesn't look like ours, but it may be able to be sized. So this is the one most like what we have, I suppose. But if I do that, it looks like the plants are going to be huge. Well, we can always get rid of the plants. They're separate parts. So let's go to the top view. and we'll go to scale. And here we're, whoops, didn't mean to grab that. Here we're going to distort completely. And you can see how our template is useful now, because we can get it to be the right size, basically, as seen on the map. And then, but when we move it up, it gets really tall, which is sort of ridiculous.
This already has a wireless one on. I don't know.
So while it lets me scale, everything is uniform whether I hit the shift key or not. So maybe it has to do with this grouping function, and if I ungroup it, then I get different things, like the metal. When I grow that, that will grow differently. Again, though, it's not, it's doing uniform scaling on that, but at least the strawberry patch is different. And I can scale the strawberry patch if I want to smaller. And then there's another sort of bed in there. And there's the glass. Okay. There's the glass and the metal when you click on that. So that's made up of various panes, and so scaling is not so easy with something like this, trying to scale a multiple object and distort it. So it's just going to have to sit here looking really big for now. I was building here a cinder block part of the garden, and this is when I go to model, the movement of the studs is a bit problematic there. This says individual bricks there, so that one is not joined. I did join these ones together, and so I can duplicate this and more easily make it fit in sections. And duplicate that. And duplicate it again and rotate it. And move it. So we can begin to build part of the garden this way. And duplicate it again. That somehow got moved. Oh, it's because I was looking at it funny. So the enemy of this a lot is often being able to see this is certainly too high. And we will dispense with this once we've gotten these things in the right position. But here's where you can take your individual bricks and make it the length you want to, and then you can group them or make a union out of them. So and select all of these. If I can get that one to select, it's creating problems. There it is. And here, if you change the movement, it won't move much. All right. It's pretty hard to grab these things, though. So maybe what we have to do is make a union out of these, and then grab this, if we can get it, this one again. Select, there we go. It won't move because of that. There we go. A little bit, and then if we can actually get it to grab, select it and select this, and now make that a union, and that's one block now, and then it makes it a lot easier to duplicate this block and then move it over to the other side. And we've got these other parts here. Hello.
Okay.
So we can put the cinder blocks and start to build. This board here that I just brought in from Wooden Board gives you an idea of when you have an individual object, if I can ever get it selected again. Why won't it select? I don't know. That's interesting. It won't select the board, okay, so, but it's called Wooden Board, so I can find it again. Oh no, it's not called Wooden Board. What is it called? It's not called Board. No. So whatever this is, I'm going to undo it because I just put it in. There it is. It's called Part. Okay, so I better name your parts as soon as they come in case you can't find them again. But this will be Wooden Board. And this wooden board now, if I move it back this way, can be scaled with each of the handles to a different size. So if I want to go like this, I can scale that, and then move it. And this is probably way too high. In fact, the greenhouse is way too high. It's a lot of problems so far with this model, but if we were to duplicate this, and then we can move it there, and then we can duplicate it again and move it here and rotate it And the rotation should be actually be able to be done in, which direction is this? Doesn't do anything. So much for that. Position is certainly there, but not rotation in that. Anyway, we'll basically try to work with it as it is there. And take this board and put it here. And you'll have to spend some time adjusting these things. But then you can duplicate it and we can make our border here. And then duplicate the last piece, but scale this way. And then take these pieces of wooden boards, but you'll have to use the right wooden boards. This one, this one, this one, and this one. And then we can unionize them into one piece. Then duplicate and then move to the other side, and we get a bit of our raised bed there. Now here, this part of the raised bed, as we can see, we have a bunch of them. So we are going to take these, and I want to keep the, I want to grab my wooden boards, and where's my union of wooden boards? I have no union of wooden boards. So I'm going to try to go to select and find out what that one was. That's called union now. So I'm going to call that wooden board union. And at least now when I type in wooden, I get my wooden boards. So I will select all of those. And what was this one called? This one was called, I need to get out of here. That's also called a union. That's called wooden board plank union. Let's try that. So we have that wooden and that one, and so we can take these. I'm not sure what these unions are. These are probably, yeah, those are for the cinder block. So better indicate that. Cinder block union, and there's another union there, which is a cinder block union. Long, so I'll just keep those, but it's the wooden board plank union and the wooden boards that I want. So naming is crucial. And then I can Control D this whole thing and move it over to there. But this one I can make into a total union. Boom. And call this raised bed wooden board union. And then that one I can Control D, and I have the whole thing to use again, and Control D again. And I begin to get some of my raised beds in there. Then when we want to look for plants, if we say garden, then we can put some plants in there and scale them a little bit. That model, when these things come in, you've really got to name them gardening plants, or you'll never find them again. Veggie garden would be okay. Flower garden. If I say vegetables, what comes up? There's a little vegetable garden. way too big, but maybe if I rotate it and scale it to make sure it's in the right place. And then this is one of those things that because it's a complex object, you're not going to be able to scale it ununiformly. But I can put it inside here and I can duplicate it. So that gives us some vegetables in there. And jungle vegetation, vegetable hat, vegetables. I'm not necessarily sure I want to use that model. In fact, I'm pretty sure I don't. So I'll delete that. But it gives you an idea of some of the things that you can put in. And let's scale that down as well. So for our character now, there's more and more to see. And when we want to check it out and hit play, he spawns in the world. I can see already that the fence is too high over there. Our greenhouse is massive. It's the most massive greenhouse I've ever seen. But the blocks are okay. The vegetable garden is not bad relative to his height. This is a giant greenhouse, so that's not cool. But we're certainly getting there. This house is sitting in a bad way, but when we go into the classroom, ooh, the lights are bright. I wonder why. How do we turn off some of the lights here? Is there even a switch? Probably not. That is super bright. For the classroom, it's as if God was speaking. But there doesn't seem to be any way to turn off the lights on this program. Unless it's on the wall here. The door does not open. Okay. The door does allow passage. This is the house. Now this house, of course, has... I've been in this one before. This has a lot of cool effects here. Although the computer does not turn on. But the lights do go on and off. And so this has got a lot of cool stuff in it. And so that's the relative position of that, of the house, and we will have to, it's actually set on the other house, but that's alright. It's got the trampoline, it's got the back, a non-functioning burner. But you can see that the place is beginning to come to life. And the basic idea then is that you can go do all your work in Blender and then pop stuff in. Like this is the goat shed, so we can come in here and we can say goat pen. A lot of stuff is already available in Roblox. So there's a goat pen there. And I'll drop that goat pen in, but maybe it won't scale non-uniformly. Let's see. No, it's all right. No, it's actually not scaling non-uniformly. It's kind of weird. If we rotate it, irony is that our own goat pen has its own goat house over here, and this doesn't scale properly for that. But it can kind of work. Actually, we can make it work for now until we decide to model our own things for it, because that kind of sits where the goat house is. So let's let it stay in like that. And that'll be our goat pen. That implies that we need some goats. And there's a goat there. And there's a goat. So we can drop this goat in. It's probably going to come in huge by the look of it. This could have been a mistake. Seems to have crashed the system. So there's our goat finally come in. I don't know why this goat is creating such problems, so I'm inclined, if I can, to delete it, because it is a real problem goat. So that goat we had to remove, but these goats look okay. So I like to bring stuff in and then duplicate with Control D. These have to be renamed goats, or we'll never know what they are. And this is the goat pen. But the goats can be duplicated. And we have 5 goats, so we'll just make 5 of them. They should not be facing direction. That would never be true in the real world. Alright, so now we have the 5 goats in place, and over here there's supposed to be a shed. So let's find a shed. There's a lot of off-the-shelf stuff here. This one looks about right. 2-door shed, and we pop that one down there. It'll have to be, oh, the doors are on the wrong side. In our real life, it is like this, but it is longer. If the scale were to work, no, it doesn't, then we would be able to scale it out. So maybe we don't use that shed. We try to find a different shed. That one's dilapidated, that won't work. That's funny. A dilapidated shed. Cool models though. Abandoned shed, a shack in the woods, a shed like this, a shed. So I've put this on pause and I'm building up stuff. I want to show now that the placeholder that I had for the beehive can now be retired or brought down. And since we can always bring it back later, we might as well delete it, because the Blender model has that. Now that we've got this, we can go to Paint and find another look for this. I think the leafy grass here is what we should use for this area. Could make that a little smaller for the bees, and maybe even put in some sand in patches, something like that. But that's the beehive area, and you can see that we're beginning to get a playable location here. I just want to drop in, the golf cart is really fun. We have 2 golf carts, so I'll have golf cart, and I'll find this golf cart and drop it in. Oh, I need to be in select, I guess. There we go. We've got the golf cart, and there's actually 2 golf carts on the property. This one is Cousin Let's Go Golfing. I'll change the name to Golf Cart, and that will be normal. And then I'm going to duplicate it and put in, this one will be, Golf Cart Solar. And what I'll do with this is I'll bring in a solar panel and try to use a small, reasonable one. Drop it in there. And there's actually 2 on the roof of our actual golf cart. So I'm going to distort this and put it down the way that we have them. Let's take a look at it from the top. Scale it in a little more, the way the actual panels are. They're a little longer than that, so let's scale it out a little wider. Alright, and duplicate it. Pull the other one back. That's what we actually have on the golf cart. Now, whether I can get these to stay on there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy them. I'm going to cut them and then find my golf cart. There's the golf cart solar, and I'm going to paste them into it. So when you look at golf cart solar, whoa, what the heck happened there? What is this? Okay, clearly that is not what I want. So let me undo that. And why are there 2 golf cart normals? I have to delete that one. And where's our golf cart solar? There it is. So that's weird. Okay, that might have been what the problem was. So let's try that again. We'll bring in the solar panel and we will scale it. And so that's right on there, and then we will duplicate it. Okay. So there we have them. They actually are a bit wide in the scale. The scaling should be done a little smaller like that. And the same thing here, but then we have to raise it up. Oops. Okay. Now, oops. These should be parented under the golf cart. And to do that, you can lift them up, but where do I lift them up to? So the best thing is to cut it and then go to the golf cart, solar, and we should be able to paste it into that. So golf cart solar is now this whole object. And that means that these panels when we look at it, there's the golf cart solar. The solar panels 1 and 2 are inside that. And they can be moved, but they're inside the golf cart itself, and that means that it should move with the golf cart. Now there could be funky things happening when we actually play the game. I want to make sure that the solar panel is anchored. It looks like it is. That solar panel looks anchored. So let's see when we go in the game what happens. So there's our character, and he runs toward the golf cart. He goes by the beehives. Yay, and there's the beehives and the leaves on the ground and a little bit of patches of sand, so that's kind of cool. There's the basketball court. Even has an animation, looks like. That's cool. There's the volleyball. That got messed up. I'll have to fix that. And what about the golf cart? Well, the solar panels ended up falling down onto the bottom. So that's not good. And what happens when he drives away? He can definitely drive, but the solar panels, they don't go with the cart, unfortunately. They just get crushed and knocked around. Okay, so not good. There's the solar panels. Why? I guess one thing I can do is select them. Select them, and now they're selected, and then select the cart, and maybe if I group them and make it golf cart solar, now will it work? Let's find out. Our character goes racing over to see if it works. He gets there and he finds no, the solar panels are back on the ground again. So he's unhappy about that. What is it that would allow it to be part of it? Because the wheels are definitely going along with the cart. Why wouldn't the solar panels? That's a question. And we will try to answer that question in another rambling video. But you can see that I did put in IBC tanks here, and I even put in some sinks and some buckets over there. So we're getting there slowly. Bye.